Hi, my name is Joanna Whitney. I am an intuitive artist and a student of natural law, and I'm going through the Formal Consensus book. And we're on page 11 right now, chapter 2. I think maybe I have gone over this a little bit already, but I'm just going to do this chapter now and probably jump around a little bit. On decision making. Decisions are adopted when all participants consent to the result of discussion about the original proposal. People who do not agree with the proposal are responsible for expressing their concerns. No decision is adopted until there is resolution of every concern. When concerns remain after discussion, individuals can agree to disagree by acknowledging that they have unresolved concerns, but consent to the proposal anyway and allow it to be adopted. Therefore, reaching consensus does not assume that everyone must be in complete agreement, a highly unlikely situation in a group of intelligent, creative individuals. So basically, what I've been seeing is panic, people who think that they are the owners of the group, rushing to conclusions, and everybody feels locked out and confused and scared. So if we do this, people will feel unified, heard, understood, mentally stimulated. There'll be feelings of love and community and deep friendship. So I'm just going to go over this again quickly. People who do not agree with the proposal are responsible for expressing their concerns. That was covered in chapter 3 in the principles about self-empowerment. So each individual person is responsible to participate in the discussion. However, given where we're at, because we've been mind controlled into being silent, maybe not even knowing what our concerns are, it's going to be up to everyone in the group, especially the leadership, to encourage people to formulate their responses and encourage them and take the time necessary to incubate the responses. And although this may take a while in the beginning, if you set the foundation by doing it for several months or however long, it will pay dividends in the future as people become more comfortable with expressing themselves. I've done this for over 20 years, and so I have experience with this, and I've seen it happen. I've seen people who were silent and didn't, maybe were completely silenced by their desire to look good or fit in, start to be able to warm up and be able to express themselves, and then get to where they became leaders. This is a spiritual process that we're engaged in, basically. And when I say spiritual, what I mean is that when people get together face to face, all of our spirits are together and all of our higher selves are together. So when we seek assistance from God, good orderly direction, gift of desperation, the spirit of the universe, natural law, the ether, positive energy. When we seek assistance from that, which is all, when we're together and it's for the highest good, we create something so much bigger than what we individuals joined together would be able to do on our own or even as a group on our own. And this process ignites our spirits, whether we like it or not. I mean, because it's not a static structure like parliamentary procedure, which is an automatic hierarchy, it really instigates our spirits to come forward, and it creates, when there's that creative interplay of ideas, that's the spiritual river that feeds new life and creates miraculous solutions to problems that we thought were impossible to overcome. No decision is adopted until there is resolution of every concern. See, that may be where people might feel like, oh my God, but it could be easier than is perceived when there's a facilitator weeding out the true concerns from the false concerns, and when each person is responsible for thinking through whether their concern is petty or really about the benefit of the whole group. Of course, learning this is going to take some time. I would say give it a few months to really learn how to interact with one another, especially meeting once a week and practicing this process. I think it might not even take that long, but it could, just, because we have a lot of mind control to overcome, just lapsing into disassociation when there's somebody at the front of the room. Even if the person comes from our own group, once they stand up in front of the room, we have been so mind controlled that they suddenly become separate from us. And also because we are, I would say, in our own freedom movement, each of our own freedom movements, and not supporting each other's freedom. And I'm sorry if that's offensive to anyone, but the thing is the fact that we're not using a horizontal communication process, to me, shows that, we just want the power of the numbers of people unified, but we're not really about each person's individual freedom. When we refer to our groups, the groups we're in, as my group or Tom's group or Jill's group, if they're the quote unquote self-appointed leader, if we're referring to the group as their group, then that person has obviously taken power over the group, because it's being labeled by one person's name. So yeah, we're not inherently free and safe from being globalist-ic ourselves. I could become a Satanist if I start acting like I'm going to get mine. Where's mine? I'm going to get mine, and I don't care who I step on to get it. I'm a Satanist right there. I have the capability of being a Satanist, and I have the capability of developing patience and being serving God for the good of the greater good. Okay. When concerns remain after the discussion, individuals can agree to disagree by acknowledging that they have unresolved concerns, but consent to the proposal anyway and allow it to be adopted, because it can be brought up later. I mean, they're going to talk about this, so I don't have to talk about it right now. Consensus is becoming popular as a democratic form of decision making. I'm going to say as an egalitarian form of decision making, equal. Because Democrats, as we know, democracy is the precursor to socialism. So I think they were just mistaken in their understanding of that word, because it was seeded into the hippie fellowship, and a democracy only works for one generation, and then it becomes the socialism. Whereas egalitarianism requires that each person be present and adopt it generationally. Like, you have to adopt it. Each generation has to adopt it. Each new person has to adopt it for themselves, using the inner monarchy. Okay, so consensus is becoming popular as an egalitarian form of decision-making. It is a process which requires an environment in which all contributions are valued and participation is encouraged. You can't do this if you're trying to get an answer in an hour. There are, however, few organizations which use a model of consensus which is specific, consistent, and efficient. Often the consensus process is informal, vague, and very inconsistent. This happens when the consensus process is not based upon a solid foundation and the structure is unknown or non-existent. So the solid foundation is the principles that the group decides is going to be their constitution, which we went over already in chapter 3, basic principles to use. Let me see if I can get to them right now, just so I can run through them. You know, that we're going to treat each other, we're going to trust each other, respect each other. We're going to have unity of purpose, which we would have to decide what that is, so we don't get involved in outside exciting, controversial issues. Nonviolence, self-empowerment, cooperation, conflict resolution, commitment to the group, active participation, equal access to power, and patience. Okay, those are some basic principles to start with in any group. And if we don't have those principles in place, you're not going to be able to have consensus. All right, so just got to find my place. To develop a more formal type of consensus process, any organization must define the commonly held principles which form the foundation of the group's work and intentionally choose the type of structure within which the process is built. So, I mean, the groups that I've been involved with have used purely spiritual principles to do their consensus decision making, but we had a solid foundation and a hugely important life or death purpose in what we were doing. So we would talk. What we did, we would talk about the issue until we were done talking about it, and then consensus would be revealed. So it took a long time, but in this situation, they have more structure so that you can get to an answer sooner and without losing out on what the principles of having everyone be heard and everyone's concerns be resolved. This book contains the building materials for just such a process. Included is a description of the principles from which a foundation is created, the flow chart and levels of structure which are the frame for the process, and the other materials needed for designing a variety of processes which can be customized to fit the needs of the organization. So, the structure of formal consensus. Many groups regularly use diverse discussion techniques learned from practitioners in the field of conflict resolution. Although this book does include several techniques, the book is about a structure called formal consensus. The structure creates a separation between the identification and resolution of concerns. Perhaps if everybody in the group has no trouble saying what they think, they won't need this structure. You know, I'm going to just say this right now. You might look at me and think that I have no trouble saying what I think, okay? But that is simply not true. Yesterday, I was caught off guard by something that happened, and I did not say what I thought because I had a gridlock in my brain of wanting to be welcoming and kind to the person I was talking to, and then perpendicular to that was that she stated something that made me realize that she had no understanding of what we were doing and was pretty much completely ignorant and was going to cause chaos. So I basically just disassociated and opted out to people pleasing and got off the phone and was like in a sweat. And then I had to call somebody and talk to them, my friend, one of my spiritual advisor friends. And then I had to recognize what I had to do, and I had to call her back and let her know that I couldn't move forward with what we had agreed to because she was going to be violating our principles. So I'm one of you. I'm one of the people. Well, I shouldn't. I mean, I'm not saying I'm better than anybody here, but I'm just saying, just because I'm sitting in front of this camera and I'm reading from this book and I'm sounding like I know something, I do know something. I have experienced this, but I'm a person with feet of clay. I have flaws. If anybody's ever in a group with me, they're going to see me roll my eyes and huff and puff at some point. I'm going to make faces. I'm going to probably step on people's toes who are looking up to me. I have issues myself, just like anyone else. And sometimes when I'm caught off guard, I resort to my old behaviors and just tell people what they want to hear. And then I have to go back and fix it, which, is humbling and takes me down a peg because I can't save my ass and my face at the same time. I mean, I'm a work in progress too. And so, I'm going to say for myself that I'm not always able to express myself, especially if I'm being given the role of leader. It might be hard for me to step out of that role and be a participant and express my feelings as a participant. Just because this isn't done regularly. I don't do this regularly. I mean, I live in a relationship with my husband, my partner. And we talk, deeply, but that took a long time. And sometimes things go without being discussed, but there's such a huge repercussion for that, we've gotten to the point where we try to talk about things right away. At least I do. I'm the instigator of the discussions, of course, right? But I've also had to do a lot of work on myself so that I'm not just instigating fights for fight's sake or vibing, sensing what he's feeling so that I can figure out how I should feel. There's a lot to this, and our society has not given us any tools at all to get along with each other for this purpose, so that they could eventually just take us over without any problem. Okay, let's see. Where am I here? This predictable structure provides opportunities to those who don't feel empowered to participate. So that is really excellent. I also have techniques that I can teach people for how to regulate themselves energetically so that they can not leak out past experiences and put them on other people, and not vibe. I like to say this, okay? I don't react to vibes. I only respond to English words. But it can be very difficult, especially if somebody's vibing you. You feel it, like the manipulations and stuff like that. So it takes practice. But hopefully we're all going to try to be super mature in these groups and know that we're all trying to help each other to find solutions together so that we can be unified. Formal consensus is presented in levels or cycles. In the first level, the idea is to allow everyone to express their perspective, including concerns, but group time is not spent on resolving problems. That's going to be really difficult because we are so geared to solving problems. I mean, have you noticed, I don't know if you've noticed this in yourself or not, but have you noticed if you tell someone that you have a problem, they immediately have an answer for you? Unsolicited advice has become conversation in our world. So we're just a snap. We're constantly trying to solve each other's problems for each other right now. I have personally taken it upon myself to try to stop giving unsolicited advice to people. And when they give it to me, I just try to say, thank you. Thank you. You know, but it's, we don't have much room in our, especially right now. We don't like the unknown because we've had the unknown thrown on us, and it was so devastating that, I'd say we are pretty much closed down to the unknown and the process of playing with the unknown to find solutions. And this is, a part of their Hegelian dialectic that they created, problem, reaction, solution. They create the problem, we react, and they want to come in and bring in the solution. But because, we are so sensitive, highly sensitive to being in the unknown, we're like searching for the known because it feels much more safe. But, to accept a known from the globalists is like accepting the slaughterhouse. Like, we'd rather walk into the slaughterhouse than wander around in the field. So this is something we're going to have to learn how to be okay with. And it might trigger anxiety, in us individually to not resolve the conflict in the first level, just to have like unknown conflicts and difficulties and just be okay with that. In the second level, the group focuses its attention on identifying concerns, still not resolving them. It's definitely going to be, triggering. This requires discipline. Reactive comments, even funny ones, and resolutions, even good ones, can suppress the creative ideas of others. So this is where practice is going to come into play, because, you'll even see me do it. I mean, I'm telling you about it right now, but I know I have the same things I'm talking about here, like the same. I mean, I'm an intuitive artist, so what that means is that I just put down a big mess of color and look for what's there. But I want to find the answer right now. I don't let the painting sit there and just look at it for days on end. I try to resolve it immediately. And that's why I'm taking an art class right now, so that I can drag it out for a whole month, where I have this mishmash of color staring at me, and I don't know what it's going to be for as long as possible, because that will create flexibility in my spirit and help me to not have to shove everything into linear thinking right away, and have plenty of time to get all the downloads from the universe, from the God space, as I can before I resolve it. So, I mean, I suffer from the same thing everybody else is suffering from with regards to this, because we are all in the society together. And I've had to train myself away from making funny comments. I used to love to do that. And it's very disarming for the person who's presenting and for everyone else, because it totally distracts from the thing that's being presented. Sometimes humor can be good, because it helps to let things go into your psyche, and when some things can't go in. But there's a time and place for everything. And a reactive comment that's humorous during a presentation is actually disruptive and violent. Resolutions, even good ones, can suppress the creative ideas of others. So we're trying to get everyone to speak up and find the creative flow before we put the dam in. If you think of a river, think of this might help. You have a river flowing from a spring, and it's flowing down into the ocean. And as long as the spring is feeding the river will remain fresh. But the minute you dam it up, it's just the same water circling around. So what we're trying to do is get the fresh water in, And then it has to flow out too. So there will be a time for damming up the river once we've had a great amount of flow from all the different sources of everyone's spirit into the situation. But we have to be okay with that, because right now what we have is a cesspool of stagnant water, of all these negative information that's going around and around. And we don't have our own solutions from God, from our own spiritual experiences. And this whole community is so spiritual. I mean, we really have a wealth of knowledge here and wisdom, but we have to allow it to bubble up. Each level has a different scope and focus. At the first level, oh, I think I don't think I read this. Yeah, I'll just reread this. In the second level, oh no, I read this. In the second level, the group focuses its attention on identifying concerns, still not resolving them. This requires discipline. Reactive comments, even funny ones, and resolutions, even good ones, can suppress the creative ideas of others. Not until the third level does the structure allow for exploring resolutions. Each level has a different scope and focus. At the first level, the scope is broad, allowing the discussion to consider the philosophical and political implications, as well as the general merits and drawbacks and other relevant information. The only focus is on the proposal as a whole. Some decisions can be reached after discussion at the first level. Some decisions, but not all decisions. At the second level, the scope of the discussion is limited to the concerns. They are identified and publicly listed, which enables everyone to get an overall picture of the concerns. The focus of the attention is on identifying the body of concerns and grouping similar ones. At the third level, the scope is very narrow. The focus of discussion is limited to a single unresolved concern until it is resolved. So I'm just going to stop there, but I am going to comment on the first three levels of consensus. And I would just say, like, basically, some people show up for the first one, some people show up for the second one, some people show up for the third one, right? And you just have to go with the people that are there. But it would be really good if people, even if they feel feelings that they don't like, that they go back for each level so that they can participate in each level. And not just throw their hands in the air because they feel suppressed or whatever. Go back to the second and third levels, show up, because the point is it's likely that it's going to be 3 separate meetings because it's so intense. It's going to be so intense for us who don't do this anymore with each other. We're going to have to build stamina. It's like going to a museum. Like you go to the museum and you go around on the first floor the first time, and then you go back the second time and go to the second floor, and then the third time you go back and you go to the third floor, and you build stamina each time. But you have to keep showing up to build that stamina, and you're going to be missing out if you don't go back. But we can't wait for everybody to show up, because we're in that situation where people show up to a meeting once and then they never come back, or they show up to the second meeting and never come back, so each of us is going to have to be disciplined to commit to this and show up. And yet at the same time, the facilitators and the group as a whole is going to have to accommodate whoever shows up, because that's the group of the moment. So that's going to be it for today. And then I'm going to go into the next part in the next video.